Hello, beautiful boss babes. Are you ready to chase life with Kelly? Well, I'm your host, Kelly Chase, and I'm so excited you're here. We are going to talk about all things love, dating, relationships, money mindset. We're going to dive deep into self-love, worthiness. I am going to bring on some incredibly empowering guests. We're going to have fun, we're going to laugh, and perhaps we're even going to shed some tears together. I am here to empower you, inspire you, and motivate you to create the life you crave. I am so excited for today's episode. Let's dive in. All right, babes. Thanks. And welcome back to the show. Thanks for listening and tuning in each week. I have special guests on with me today. They don't really need that much of an introduction. One is my former castmate, Mrs. Giannina Gibelli, and her boyfriend, love of her life, Blake Horstmann. Hello.
Hey,
thanks for having us.
I'm so excited to be here.
Me too. I think you guys are like my first like duo episode. Yeah, I've only ever had singles.
We're pretty seasoned, so
yeah, I'm sure. Sure. Okay, so I want to know, and I know my listeners too, like kind of take us back. I want to know more about the two of you, not just like from TV. Like, who are you? Like your journey a little bit. So yeah, you can start.
Okay. So I think like really what's defined me a lot and in my life and what I just feel like I've gravitated towards is just always being a person that like has gone with their gut through everything. So like in college and like my early 20s, like I didn't really understand why certain things were being presented to me, but I always said yes to them. And I always felt like I was going to learn something from it, or it was going to take me to where I wanted to be. And I never knew what that thing was. I just knew that there was something out there that I was supposed to be doing, and this was somehow going to take me there. So like I would, get these really amazing opportunities and like, working for really great companies. And I never understood like, why is this happening to me? But I always felt like, okay, like, I'm going to be able to help somebody with this on one day. And through like my journey of just like being like a blind optimist is what I like to call myself. Like I really am. I always feel like everything's going to turn out okay. Like, even if I'm like on the ground, like eating dirt, literally, which happened especially between filming Love is Blind and Love is Blind coming out. I like lost my job and I was like walking dogs and, I couldn't like pay my rent. And even through those moments, I was like, you know what? Like, I feel like this is happening to me for a reason so that I never have to eat dirt again. Like, I always feel like there's a bigger purpose out there. So that's pretty much me. And I think like through my relationships too, like I'm very much like a relationship girl. And I was in a relationship through most of my 20s. Like my first boyfriend was when I was 19. And we dated for 5.5 years. And I felt like that chapter, I wasn't sad about it. Like, I don't think about my exes after the fact. Like, I just feel like, okay, that fulfilled me. And that was for that chapter. And then the next one. And then my second boyfriend was Damien. And then I was like,
oh my God.
Yeah, was going to be my almost husband. And for some reason, I didn't know that this was a thing, but I always felt like my third love is going to be it. My third love is going to be it. I've always had like this intuition of my third love is going to be it. And Blake's my third love. So I think I called that one.
Oh my God, that is crazy. I know when you said that your like first boyfriend was 5 years, I was like trying to do the math. I was like, wait, how old were you when we filmed Love is Blind?
Yeah. So we broke up, I think like I was 23 and a half or just turned 24. Yeah. I was single for 1.5 years before I did Love is Blind. So then I went to Greece, and started living in my friend's basement. That's how I know I was 24. That was a really hard year. And then I tried, dating people, but I was never really like, I never really gave a shit. Like, I don't find a lot of people attractive. Like, they have to have a lot for me to like feel attracted to you, and then keep me attracted. So when Love Is Blind came out, or like when they approached me, that's when I was like, it sounds a little weird, but I'm a little weird. So like maybe this is what I need, because I've only had one boyfriend my entire life. And I'm someone that like just doesn't really pay much attention to that. So like maybe this is meant for me. And it was, in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. That's so interesting. Yeah,
pretty much the opposite of
I was
Blake.
just about to say that. I was about to be like, we have very different journeys. Oh, I hate that word. I use that so much during The Bachelor. I don't ever want to use it again. Journey. Yeah, we did. Like, we had a different, I mean, I'm from a small town in the mountains of Colorado. I grew up very sheltered. I went through some shit, like, whether it be family and then the school shooting in high school. And like, my little town went through a lot, but I was still more or less sheltered in a sense that I just thought everybody was kind of like nice. Like, I just thought everybody was like a good person. Like, I don't think I genuinely met like a bad person throughout most of my childhood and everything. And so, coming out of that, and even, I went to college in Nebraska, a small college in Nebraska. It was fantastic. But coming back to Denver, I think I moved back. I had a 2-year relationship right out of college, didn't work out, moved back to Colorado. And I do also think of myself as an optimist, but I don't think I'm a blind optimist quite like G. Like, I've never seen quite the blind. It's almost like, no, like, you have to like do something for something good to happen. But she has this blind like optimist, and it's awesome. It's like rubbed off on me, and I love that. Because sometimes I'll get a little in my head and worried, and she'll just kind of do the whole, it'll be all right, don't worry, it'll be all right.
It's always all right.
Yeah, it's always all right. So, in that sense, yeah, she's rubbed off me, which is great. But like, moving back to Colorado from Nebraska, I didn't have, it was just kind of like, I just wanted to find a job and make a living, pay for rent kind of thing. And I worked for Coors. I ended up getting a job for Coors. I worked there for roughly 4 or 5 years before I got the call for The Bachelor. And my relationship path was a little different. I really only had like real girlfriends, especially if you don't count high school, maybe 4. So not that many either. I had like a 2-year, an 8-month, and another 8-month, like a 6-month, I think, or something like that. So I hadn't had like a 5.5 or anything. Like, so that I hadn't had a long relationship in a long time until like my 2-year relationship ended when I was 22, and I didn't really have until you. Like, I feel like I haven't had like a real long relationship in that span. I mean, you have The Bachelorette and everything, but yeah, one of The Bachelorette, it was a good experience. It was something I would say I was treading water in my career and just in life. And I wasn't unhappy, but I wasn't happy. I didn't feel fulfilled. So I took the risk. I took the jump, signed up for The Bachelor. And it was great. It was awesome. I met a lot of amazing people. I did fall in love, didn't work out, but I did have, I can fall in love again. It was kind of one of those moments for me. It was like, I do want this. This is something I want. So all in all, it was a great experience. Paradise was a little different. It was very different for me. I think that was the first time in my entire life that I've ever been like, quote unquote, like any sort of a villain. So it was very hard for me to deal with, and very difficult for me to like comprehend, and like just like my day-to-day like life changed. My mind, like the way I thought about things changed a lot. And like I said, I looked at people like I lost trust in people quite a bit, especially people in this industry that we're in, this weird like entertainment / influencer, whatever we are, reality TV entertainment industry that we're in. I lost a lot of trust, and it took some time to get all that back. And weirdly enough, I think we talked about this recently, like the timing, because a lot of people are like, why the hell did you go on another show? And I'm like, I don't know how to answer that, but but I think it was just the timing of everything was just happened to be so perfect, and just like the kind of and where I was in my life and where I was in my relationship, and ready to trust again, and ready to, like you kind of opened up with, like self-love. Like I was ready to like love myself again, and in that sense, ready to love somebody else. So the timing was just perfect, and everything just was pointing like, take this risk again. And I did, and here we are. So that's kind of the journey leading up to All Star Shore.
I love it. I love it. Well, okay. So tell me about like after, I want to say like after your experience on Love is Blind and then after your experience on Bachelor, like more about that like self-love journey. I know, G, you traveled a lot like afterwards, like after, not necessarily we filmed, but like after you and Dane like split up and stuff. Like I felt like you were on this like journey. Yeah, we're gonna use that word. You went on a journey like to like really find yourself again. I felt like I was seeing that and noticing that. And so I want to ask like what that was like for you. What like lessons did you learn? Like all that kind of thing. And the same thing for you, Blake, as well. I know Blake I've been following Blake for a long time, probably since Bachelor. I saw him on Bachelor a long time ago. So, you know, I know that he has openly talked about, like you've openly talked about therapy and that kind of thing. So if you want to like just expand on that and like what you did to get yourself to more of a place of like, I'm open for love again. Yeah.
I mean, so I did all of that really unintentionally. Like I didn't plan on being like, oh, so I'm gonna now leave my home for a year and travel the world and, you know, find myself again. I really was just focusing on like, after this experience that completely turned my life upside down, and then I chose to be in a relationship that was teaching me lessons, but that also, you know, hurt me a lot. Like, what makes me happy? Like, who am I again? And like, what responsibilities can I take, you know, from, and like trying to separate myself from being like, oh, okay, this is what happened, and this is how much was the show, this is how much was Damien, this is how much was me. Like that was really what I needed to like get down first. And I generally like, I just separate myself from the environment that I'm in. So like when I was younger, my parents got divorced starting like when I was 12 years old, and I was always left alone. Like I was like by myself constantly. My dad went back to Venezuela, my mom had her new boyfriend, my brother went to college up like 4 hours away. So I really had to like tune into my like emotional development by myself through like those crucial years, like your teens. And so I've always been like hyper aware of like, oh, I'm triggered by like abandonment issues. Oh, I'm triggered by this. And, you know, so I've always had that like self-awareness. And so when this chapter of my life like just blew up, and then I thought I was already like emotionally mature because of all the things that I've already been through, all the things that I'm aware of. I had to really like relearn myself again. And it was just like, okay, like what makes me happy? Like, what do I want to do now? Like, what are the things that I felt like I couldn't do? And now I'm just going to say, screw it and do everything. And so pretty much like I got out of that relationship and started just meeting up with friends and family, and that ended up taking me to Florida for a couple of months. And then I was just happening to be like, okay, well, I've always wanted to live in Europe. Like, why don't I just do that for a little bit? And like clockwork, it just manifested. A couple of my friends reached out to me and they're like, hey, we're going to Croatia for like 2 months. Do you want to come with me? And I'm like, perfect. This is exactly what I've been wanting. So like, I pretty much just, as lame as it's not like lame, but like as woo-woo as it sounds, like I pretty much just speak things out into the universe. And then when that opportunity presents itself, I take it. And I'm like, oh, okay, this is where it's packaged. This is how it's being packaged. And I'm just going to ride this wave along. And through that, I started dating again. I went out on a couple of dates, and it was interesting because like every person that I met throughout like that year was like, I was getting closer and closer to the type of people that like to the type of guy that I was like, oh shit, like he's not like the last one, but he's better than this one. And then the next one's better than the last one. And I'm like, oh, I can feel myself getting closer. And it was a really interesting like evolution of the type of men that I was dating throughout that year. Like the first one was like really nice and sweet, but like ghosted me for like months. And I was like, I didn't understand because I'd never been ghosted. Like I don't date. Like if anything, I was just almost engaged and then dated for 2 years. And so I really had to like learn how to not put worth on other people's perception of me. And then also just honestly like use people back. I was like, okay, you know, once I was out in Tulum and I was like, okay, I pick you, bye, I'm never going to speak to you again. But you completely like soak up the energy and you have a good time and you don't put too much emphasis on it. And then you realize, oh shit, like I didn't react like a crazy person with this person. And, maybe this is why I was reacting this way, because we're bringing the worst out in each other, or like, wow, I didn't know that I had it in me. Like certain people just bring out different sides of you.
Yeah.
And that whole year of my life, which was like last year, well, from 2020 October, which was when me and Damien broke up, to 2021 December when I met Blake, I ended up being so content and so fulfilled and like so free because I ended up doing everything that I wanted, and like I felt so creative, and like I was owning every single part of me. And I had ultimately, which was the biggest thing that I needed to do, was I had to forgive Damien, but there was a piece of me that still like was angry and I didn't know what it was. And then I realized I have to forgive myself. And I've never gone to therapy. It was very expensive for me for a really long time. And then I just never found the right therapist. So like I pretty much therapized myself, which is probably not the best thing to do. But I'm glad that I got there by myself, because as soon as I did, and as soon as I forgave myself, and I was like, oh, you're not mad at him, you're mad at yourself for allowing these things to happen to you, and then you didn't do too much to change it. Like when I forgave myself at that point, which was like October 2021, I stopped feeling that anger. And then again, 2 weeks later, like manifestation, I got the call to be on the show, which is where I met Blake.
Wow.
So it was like, all right, cool, you shed that layer.
Yeah.
Now you're ready for this other part of their life.
Wow.
Very interesting for me.
Yeah. I always like one of my biggest like mantras is like, let go to create space for new. And that's like what you did, really.
Yeah.
You had to let go.
It was really long-winded, but that's pretty much what I did. I didn't know what I was doing. I was just doing whatever I wanted to do. And then I was just open to it. Cause I mean, coming from a divorce so young, there is no hurt that can measure up to that. Right. And so that's always what I had in my head. Like, I was like, if I can survive that, I can survive this.
Right.
So that's what kept me like open to being like, I'm going to be fine. Like I'm not going to die. Also, I was told no at the altar. Like I survived that. Like there's just so many things that I've overcome that, if anything, that year was more exciting than like daunting.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Well, when we met, that was like I feel like I've always identified you as like whimsical fairy. Like you've always just been this like go with the flow. She's just so whimsical, right? Yeah, she is. Like I swear, like all of us called her that like the entire time. She was just like this like floating on set, like
long blonde hair.
Yeah, your long blonde hair. You were just so cute, and it was so funny because like I remember I had like some like personal development book, and you were like, Cal, what is that? And I was like, oh, it was like Carol Schweck, like mindset book. And you were like, oh, can I read that? And I was like, okay. And I was just like, I don't know, there's just like certain things about you. And I was like, I love her. Like, she's my people.
We gravitated toward each other.
Yeah, you just had this like very carefree spirit about you. And so I feel like that just speaks to what you just shared. It's like you just kind of like went with the flow, but like you created your own flow in a sense, Yeah.
I mean, I want to be able to like write it down at some point and be like, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. But really what it is, it's like just focus on like healing yourself. And like whatever that is to you. Like for me, that happened to be taking myself out of that environment and just putting myself in completely uncomfortable, unknown territory, and then realizing who it is that I am again. And that did the trick for me. But I've talked to a lot of people and they're like, I don't know how you can travel by yourself. And I'm like, it's like the most freeing experience ever. So it really just depends on the person, but
totally. Yeah. Every journey, every, experience is going to be different, of course. But yeah, I mean, that's like what I had to do like 5 years ago when I like started my whole self-love stuff. Like I was like 180 my entire life. Like I was like, because I had like friends that were like, married or getting married and having children. And then I had like my single party crew, and I wasn't that, and I didn't want to be that anymore. So I like went into this extremely uncomfortable situation, and like putting my like going solo to events, traveling solo. Like I was doing a lot of that too. And it's like, that's what creates the change that you're looking for,
Yeah.
And you remember yourself and like really discover who you are.
Right. And it's really cool because like I never felt like I was in danger or anything, because the type of people that I was attracting when I would go out were the same, like my same kind of like vibe. They were just like happy, maybe traveling by themselves too. And I always felt safe because like my energy was literally attracting the same type of people that like that I was trying to become. Right. So anyway, your turn.
Yeah. Okay.
Mine was, after, there's two things. I have after the Bachelorette and then I have after Paradise. And after the Bachelorette, it was a weird time for me, because I just felt like I was like, I could never relax. Like I just felt like I was always getting pulled in different directions. I was like trying to please everybody. And that's just who I am. And I felt like it was very overwhelming at the time because like so many people wanted a piece of me, and I liked giving a piece of me to a lot of different people, because like I like making people happy. And so in that sense, it was pretty wild. I did work at Coors for 8 months after I got back from the Bachelorette, but then eventually I was like, I'm basically losing money. Like I was giving up other opportunities to sell beer, and I was like, I don't really see this. Yeah, something I want to do for the rest of my life. So ended up doing that, and then obviously Paradise came around and it went the way it did, and that's when I really kind of looked in the mirror and I was like, we have kind of a similar like recovery process, if that's what you want to call it. But I did use therapy. There's a first time. I always was one of those people who like was like rub dirt on it, walk it off. I was always that person. I had never really had any kind of panic attacks or anxiety attacks or anything like that. Like looking back, my life was pretty fucking easy, like looking back at it, and I think that's why this was so hard for me to cope with coming off of Paradise. I think I hadn't really, I'd cope with some trauma, but it was very different than what I was going through. I kind of felt like it was me against the world, and, everybody was kind of out to get me. And so therapy was big for me. I got into therapy, during the season, the actual season. That was when it was airing, even before it started airing, because there was 6 weeks in between filming and airing. And that changed my life. It did, because it was the first time I'd really been able to talk through anything, as a man. We are oftentimes laughed at, if we speak, if we're any kind of sensitive, or we speak what's wrong, we speak what's on our mind. And that's something that my family isn't exactly like, oh, masculine, like testosterone, but it was just a sense of like brush everything under the rug. And so it was like opening like a valve, it's like all of a sudden I'm in therapy and all this stuff just comes pouring out like a waterfall, so it was big for me. And it was weirdly enough, it was like a fun time for me because I got to finally say a lot of things that I had bottled up for God knows how long, long time. But I think the biggest thing for me coming off Paradise, and I worked through it not only in therapy, but like just with other people and family and stuff, was I just had so much anger and frustration and confusion coming out of Paradise that it affected my relationships with everybody. Like I would snap at people. I was just rude and angry, and I was just always like had my walls up. And I think the biggest thing is like I would just pick fights with people because I didn't know at the time kind of what that was until I went to therapy, and I realized like I just had so much anger and frustration and almost like betrayal like built up inside me. So I think the biggest thing was like forgiving. Like I had to learn to forgive. And even when you're not necessarily getting an apology, if you will, or even talking to that person, you still got to learn to forgive. And so I think that was one of the biggest things that I learned that like year, 2 years after Paradise, was just letting go of things you can't control, and letting go of feelings that impact, the other relationships in your life. And so it took a long time. I honestly can't think of the name of the therapy now, but it's driving me crazy. you hold the vibrating, and it kind of takes you back. Yeah, I can't think of what it's called.
You hold it vibrating?
Yeah, you hold like two things that are vibrating paddles, and it takes you back. And then it's I can't think of the name of it, but yeah, it was really intense. Like I was just like cry, and like super intense stuff. But it helped. And now, I'm the person who openly, and she always calls me kind of emotionally constipated, but at the same time, like you should have saw me before. Like, I think you should have saw me before, because I'm just able to now, like, I love when people reach out and ask for help, especially men. Like when men are like, "Thank you for speaking out on it. I want to speak out on it." I'm like, yeah, like I wish somebody would have told me when I was younger that it was okay to feel the way I feel, and it was okay to talk about anxiety and panic attacks. And I always say, like, now after what I've been through, like people who live daily with anxiety attacks and like panic attacks, like they are the toughest people in the world. Like it is incredible. Like I'll never forget the day I released those text messages that night. Like I was basically naked. I was in my underwear laying on a deck, like breathing into a paper bag. Like it was the worst, just the most helpless feeling. And like people will get those daily, or you know what I mean? Like it's crazy that people live and they can live like that. And so if anybody out there who deals with anxiety attacks on a daily basis or panic attacks, like you guys, I have no idea how strong you are, because I went through it for like 3 months and it was the hardest thing I've ever done. So, but yeah, I think the biggest thing for me was therapy. I think I opened my eyes to therapy. And I always now will always tell people that, therapy, if you try to, if you exhausted all of the possibilities, therapy is good for you. And like I said, I think those 2 years, because I finished Paradise in 2019. So going into 2021, I finally felt like I was at a point where I wasn't snapping at people. I wasn't as angry, and I was had forgiven people, and I could move on past that. There's still obviously good days and bad days. We all have those. We also have good days and bad days. Like I still will read something or see something and I'll get angry. It'll trigger my anger or whatever, but I know how to cope with it. I think that's the difference. People think that like there's something that'll switch and you'll never have it again. No, the difference is you can learn to cope with the anger, with the sadness, the anxiety, whatever that is. So I think now I have the tools to cope with everything. So I think I was same thing. I think I was right where I wanted to be when the call for All-Star Shore kind of happened.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, you were.
yeah. I mean, clearly, yeah, it must be. Yeah.
Yeah. Can you, speaking to the therapy, was you obviously had like what you were just talking about. I don't know the term of that, what that technique is either. I'm like thinking EMDR, but that's like eye rapid.
It's something N though. It's like, I can't
interesting.
remember what it was.
Yeah. But did they, like, was that suggested pretty early on in your sessions, or was it more like talk therapy for a while until
it was pretty right away. It was kind of like, I even remember, because I went through a couple therapists, like people think that one, you're just going to show up to therapists, they're going to be perfect. No, it takes time. You have to find the right one. I finally did. But like our first conversation, she could just tell what I had bottled up. And like, it just, at the time, especially at that time, like I would just talk about it and tears would start running down. Like I was just like in a bad place. And she was like, I think, when you try this therapy, this certain kind of therapy. And it was great. Cause I think another thing that I would do was, and I still do this, and I remember you talked about this too, is like, you think of a time you wish you would have said something, you know what I mean? Think back to a time and you wish you would have done something differently or said something. And I was having that to the extreme. And so it would actually take me back to the moment, and I would say the things and play out how that would have happened, So it was almost like playing out different, I don't know, like stories in my life, in my head, and seeing how it would have played out and if it would have been different. That way it doesn't just weigh on me like I should have said this, I wish I would have said this. So there was a really interesting way of therapy. And I'm not saying it would work for everybody, but it did work for me.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, I still do it. I mean, of course, everybody does it. But that was to the point where like I would think to what I would have said, and that would be like my day would be over, because that's all I could think about. Like I couldn't function because I was so just like in that mindset. Yeah. So crazy.
No, absolutely. I've had similar things done like that with me, like whatever, it's like emotional healing or emotional like energy healing, more or less. Like what I'm understanding is that our conscious, our subconscious doesn't know the difference between the past, present, and future. So when we go back and revisit those experiences and we like visualize and feel it as if it's happening now, it's the subconscious doing that like healing work of like, oh, it's happening now, we get to do it again. Like, and so it's correcting that like behavior more or less. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it was great. And I had never heard of it before. And I was like, dang, this is pretty cool. So,
Wow.
Yeah. Super neat. That's really awesome. What are some of the, like you mentioned you have some like coping strategies or coping tools, I guess, for the anxiety and whatnot. What are some of those, if you can share?
G actually mentioned one kind of, and we had this in common. It's just and it's simple. It is simple in a way. For some people, it's not, but that's just to remove yourself from the environment. Like, and I think that's why I've kind of removed myself from Bachelor Nation, because there are still things in Bachelor Nation that trigger me, and there are people who trigger me. And it just got to a point where like Bachelor Universe Nation, whatever you want to call it, wasn't bringing anything positive in my life anymore. And so I was like, I need to step back from this. Like, there's no point in me being a part of this when all it does is it's honestly toxic for me. For me personally, it was just toxic. And so I think that's one of the biggest things, just remove yourself from the environment. And I kind of mentioned it before, but like, just know it takes time. Like, I think a lot of people think there's like this magic button you say, or this magic book you read, or this saying you hear, but that's not the case. It'll take time, and you'll slowly start to feel better. So don't expect like immediate results. Just know, like, you put in the work and you're patient, it will pay off at the end.
I mean, I've had anxiety since my first panic attack was when I was 12.
Wow.
Yeah, when I was in middle school, and it was coincidentally the time my parents were getting divorced. So figured that one out.
Yeah.
And I was smoking weed for a really long time to cope with it. And it did. And then it was like the only thing that did it. So I actually went to a sanctuary and like I prayed to like this magical statue. And I was like, I need you to rid me of this anxiety and this dependency. And literally it cured me.
I don't know if I necessarily recommend that to the listeners.
I don't recommend it as well,
but I guess it works for her.
I mean, I think it's like the power of like how much I put into that too. And now like, and every time that I was feeling anxious prior to that, I would just go out into nature and like literally just take my shoes off and put them in the dirt and just like stand there and cry. And then that would help me cope. But prior to that, like, I don't know, I didn't take any medicine.
No, I never. And I don't blame people for who do, but that wasn't the path I wanted to take, because I was afraid I'd become dependent on it.
Right.
I was like, it's going to be too good. Like, I'm going to feel too good. So I didn't. And I'm sure, I know it works for a lot. I know people who are on it and it works for them, but yeah, I just couldn't do it. But it's kind of interesting when she talks about the statue. Like, sometimes it is more or less like a placebo effect, and it's like you kind of believe like, okay, I'm going to change my ways, and that it doesn't matter what it is. If you speak to the grass, if you speak to the sky, whatever it is, you find something that you can kind of use as like a catalyst to feeling better. And it doesn't matter what it is. Like, I don't care if you're praying to your dog. Like, I don't care what it is, like you just kind of need that like catalyst.
Mine was like a 500-year-old statue, but okay.
What age?
Real, I don't know. Maybe she found the statue.
I'm gonna get a bunch of DMs like, where the fuck is it?
Yeah, where's this statue? Where is it? Wasn't it in like?
Where was it?
In Colombia.
Where was it?
In Colombia. It's in like this super. It's like in a pink church, and the story of it, and I'll tell it really quickly. It was a tiny little like cross that this woman found when she was like washing her clothes in the river. And then it grew to life size overnight. And then they tried burning it. And then like the cross started crying. And now there's like a whole list like engraved on the wall of this church that you have to go to this tiny chapel to see it, of all the miracles that it's performed, like cancers, like so many miracles that it's performed. And so I was standing there.
Giannina's anxiety is on there.
And yes, if this doesn't work, nothing will.
How old or what age were you when you did that?
Did that shit last year.
Last year? Oh, okay. Yeah. Oh my God. Did you experience a lot of anxiety post Love is Blind?
It was all I experienced.
Yeah.
And it was like, so during filming, I don't know if you saw, but I had 3 panic attacks during the pods. They had to like massage my hands and like do this whole thing. And so that's also like why my interviews were so crazy, because I was like going through a lot of like rewiring. And so like during the pods, I had like 3 panic attacks. And then in the between of filming and it coming out, I gained weight. I only experienced anxiety like every single day. I was breaking out. I had like 7 jobs. Like it was like the most stressful time of my life. And then it came out, and while I was watching it, I was literally in the fetal position. And then, honestly, weirdly enough, what cured that anxiety too, because now I don't have any feelings of like anxiety towards Love is Blind, which is great.
Yeah.
Was watching it and being like, shit, that wasn't as bad as I thought. Like, what? I thought that was gonna go way worse. And so like I'd put myself into such a pit of like the worst outcomes possible, and that didn't happen. So I was like, all right, cool. Like I'm better. Yeah, like, it wasn't that bad. Let's move on. Yeah. And so like, I'm very much like a forgive and forget type of person. So I think it's the blind optimism speaking.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's interesting. I mean, I feel like that time in between the filming was probably some of my most darker days too.
Yeah. It was a year and a half. So a lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
A year and a half of like your life in other people's hands. And I'm also in like this toxic relationship that he's the only person that knows how I feel. So create a trauma bond, and then but that trauma bond doesn't make you feel any better either. So it's just like you're like, all right, cool, like there's no way out. Yeah.
Oh gosh. Jeez. Oh my gosh. Okay, so thank you all for sharing and being vulnerable. I love that. Yeah. Okay, so then you decide to do the show, the All-Star Shore. All-Star Shore, it's like a mouthful. Yeah, so tell me a little bit about that experience and how it's been since, and how you fell in love.
It was something I think neither of us expected, for sure. You know, we went into this show, competition show. We both in our interviews were like, I don't want to fucking meet anybody. Don't try and hook me up with anybody. Don't try and like set me up. Like, just want to go into this, have fun more than anything. I know for me personally, I wanted to show a person. Like, I think Bachelorette and Paradise were 2 extremes of me. Like, I think Bachelorette, I was like this, you know, like very sad and very emotional, and it was very hard. And then Paradise, you know, obviously like I was also all of those things, but also like they painted me as like, you know, I feel like America didn't, or anybody who watches reality TV didn't know who I really was. So I saw All-Star Shore as like a good opportunity of maybe finding that balance between the 2 and just having fun and being myself and being competitive, which I love. You know, I love competition. So going into it, I didn't expect to meet anybody. I didn't want to be honest. Like, I didn't want to. Pretty quickly on, you know, me and G hit it off. Pretty much day 2, we kind of
day one
we did, but I think day 2 is when we had like that conversation.
Okay, so question, and I'll share my experience, but question. Yeah. Were you like coming after me because you saw everyone else was coming after me, or were you like truly interested?
No, you were the only one I think I would have been even remotely interested in. And so that was like, of course, I'm like, oh, she's cute as fuck. I'm going to go say hi. And then when we started talking, I was like, oh shit, I'm going to like this girl. Like, not the point of this show. I mean, day 1 when you were standing on that couch, and I was like, I saw Johnny like go up and talk to you, and I like went around the other side of the couch, was like, I want to talk to her.
Did your Bachelorette instinct?
Yeah, my Bachelorette instinct kicked in. But that was the coolest thing about the show, actually, was that it wasn't like the Bachelorette, and it wasn't like Paradise. And there were moments when even the producers, we talked about this, production was like, stay away from each other. Like, you guys, we need, like, you know, it's a competition show, not a love show. So like, don't be glued to each other. Don't be all those things. So
like, what do you expect? You got like the 2 loveliest people.
Yeah, exactly. So in that sense, it was a really fun experience, because it was just very different than what I was used to. I was used to producers like more or less being like telling you to go hang out with her, telling you kind of like you should be in love with her, why you should be in love with her, why she's so great. It wasn't like that on this show. So it felt, not that, you know, the other relationships that we've had on TV weren't genuine, but this felt different, and it felt a bit more genuine, and just real. So yeah, it was a nice surprise, to say the least.
Yeah.
I
mean, in that sense, like, it's my journey is very similar to his. Like, I didn't plan on meeting anybody. I couldn't meet anybody, honestly. So I had a project after that. So my agent was like, don't fall in love. And I was like, haha, I'm super picky. Like, of course I'm not gonna fall in love. Are you joking? And then I called them like, oh no, I got my phone back after we filmed, and I was like, I'm in trouble. But during that, like leading up to it, I felt so relaxed compared to the project that I was gonna do after the fact. Like I felt like All-Star Shore was gonna be like super fun, and I had no qualms about it, but I was really worried about the other one. And that was the feeling of like that relaxed feeling that I had with Love is Blind season 1, like not after the Altar was a shit show. Right. But like the first time I was like, this is gonna be fine, it's gonna be fun. Like I don't really know what I'm getting myself into, which is super fun because it's a season 1 of everything. And like, and you know, with Love is Blind, like you're obviously like in a social experiment. So you're being told to think in ways that you've never thought before. You're feeling things that you've never felt before because you're like, how is this happening through a wall? Right. And on All-Star Shore, it was just the complete opposite of that, Kelly. Like imagine like being able day 1 to touch and see everybody. Like a wild concept. And it really felt like that. I was standing there with everybody. I was like, holy shit, cool. Like I got to meet everyone day 1. Like what's going on? And then and because I didn't really want to meet anybody, I feel like that's why I got a lot of like attention put on me, because guys want what they can't have. And I was put in a position where they're like, so who do you want? Like the guys, not Blake. Blake was he would like steal looks. Like we would steal looks from each other. Yeah, he's very mysterious. He was very like low key. Like one guy was flirting next to me, and then like I would look over and Blake was just like staring at me like in a cute way, you know, like ah. There was so like fucking hot.
There were moments where like we'd always find each other next to each other. Yeah, and it would be cold, and she would be like underneath my arm, kind of like that. Like we just always
perfectly in like his like crevices, and like we both. Happening, we didn't really talk.
Yeah, exactly. It was like almost like a high school,
it was
like
so
recess type. Love it.
That's so cute.
And then we like kissed, and honestly, like there was a moment when we kissed like exactly the same.
It was a weird moment,
and we were both like, "Oh shit!" Yeah. We were like, "Damn!" Like this is like. And then when we started talking, we realized that we just have so many similarities as far as like. Not essentially like how we grew up, because as you just heard, it was very different, but like emotionally, like we have like the same love language, I feel, where it's like we both love hard. And we've gone through like a lot of emotional like turmoil when we were young, and then also with like our relationships that help us really understand each other like on such a really like unique level. So when we were both talking, we were like, oh, so you get it, really? He's like, yeah, I completely understand. And that was something that I didn't find in the real world during that year. If anything, I had guys being like, you're sketchy as fuck, like I don't trust you, I can't be with someone that has this much attention online, you know? So like to have a complete opposite was great, because me and Blake, like we both get it. And I didn't know that was going to be like one of the things that I really valued about our relationship, but it really is.
And I think that's why when people are always like, why do athletes date athletes? Why do you know actors date actors? Is because you can relate. Like athletes' lives are insane, like strict, disciplined, like, and then you want to find somebody just like that. And like same with actors, entertainers. We're like us, we travel a ton. I'm lucky enough, you know, that we both love traveling, and we both, you know, so like I think it's not a surprise when people like in the same career, you know, kind of end up together. So
yeah, but then you also want to like help the other person out, and it's like, shut the fuck up, I know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
No, you don't. That goes both ways.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, so your cute moment of when Blake was professing his love to you and asked you to be his girlfriend. I want to talk about that because obviously I told you guys earlier I actually didn't watch the show, but I watched the little recap on someone's Instagram. So I was like, oh my God, that was so fucking cute. Like he said it in Spanish. He said it in Spanish. Like so cute. But yeah, like what was going through the both of your minds? I mean, I know your facial expression kind of, said a lot at first.
She was low-key terrified. She was like, what's happening?
Yeah, so so I'll tell my side of the story first. So basically, like, where me and Blake have hit it off, like 7 days up to this point, maybe 8.
No, this is the very end.
Oh, it was like 13 days then? Like
I would say
days?
2 weeks.
All right, cool. 2 weeks in. And had I already said I loved you behind
Not
my back?
to me.
Yeah. So I'd already said that I loved him out loud behind his back. Like he didn't know.
Yeah.
So I was like, I know I love him. Like whatever happens after this, whatever. But like,
Aww.
I'm so happy that I did this because I met Blake. And but like during that day, one of the cast members was like, and he was talking to me in Spanish. He was like, so like, what do you
Right
think
in front of me.
Yeah, right in front of Blake, but it was in Spanish. He was
Yeah, I
like,
had no idea.
what do you think about Blake? Blah, blah. I'm like, well, like I get along with him super well. Like I think he's amazing. I'm really like into him. And he goes, oh, okay, cool. And later that day, so this is like why the universe is, I feel like it's so aligned. So the one day that I like wore this black dress, because I was wearing like all these like fun, colorful things. And that day I was like, I'm going to wear a black dress, do red lipstick, look really classic, really cute. And then I'm sitting and waiting for everyone to come out before we go to our usual party downstairs. And everyone just starts walking out in black. And I'm like, oh my God, what a coincidence. Like we're all wearing black. How freaking cute is this? Like I'm so happy I chose black, blah, blah, blah. And all of a sudden, like Johnny, one of the castmates, grabs me and he's like, okay, like come with me. Like we're walking downstairs. And I still don't know what's happening. Like I still just think that it's part of like, I don't know, a game that we're going to play or something. And then I see like the lights are red and then I'm going to fucking cry. And then I see, oh, hey, you. It was the cutest thing in the world because I see him like standing there with his little rose, which I still have. And immediately panic sets in though. Like I went from being super like happy and excited to being fucking petrified because I was like, if this man is gonna propose to me, he is an idiot.
It's over.
Yeah, like, this is not because like I guess I went a little too hard. And so I'm panicking. Plus I have this other project. So I'm just like, fuck, like I'm gonna have either break his heart or he's gonna go too hard and I don't know, like we're gonna have to figure this out like off camera. But then he starts talking and like professing his love. And he sees the panic on my face and he just like starts speeding it up. Like he starts speeding up his
I think I even
speech.
skipped some of this.
Yeah, he starts
Yeah, I was like, oh shit, she's gonna pass out.
Yeah. And then when he asked me like, ¿Quieres ser mi novia? Like, do you want to be my girlfriend in Spanish? The look on my face is just pure relief.
Oh, it was, yeah.
Like, oh yes, of course. Like, thank you. You didn't go like too hard and go over the top. And it was like it was crazy because it felt like a proposal. Like it felt like my Love is Blind proposal didn't even come close. Well, no, I'm not gonna say that because it didn't come close. No, because then we had everyone like come down and cheers and it was just like so sweet. So the fact that like him asking me to be his girlfriend felt more like elated than a fucking actual proposal just like spoke volumes to me,
Absolutely.
So what's your side of the story?
Yeah. I mean, so I pulled Potro aside because I was like, dude, I think she likes me, but like I don't want to be an idiot. Like we obviously get along, but like I don't know, I can't tell really if she would be like, you're a fucking idiot. We've known each other for 2 weeks. So I was like, so I pulled him aside. I was like, dude, can you just kind of like find out for me like what really, because I'm thinking about asking her to be my girlfriend. Can you kind of like test the waters? And he was like, oh yeah, for sure. And so we were on the bus ride back from, I think it was the Paradise game that day, maybe, or something like that. And I heard them like, I was sitting next to you, and they were talking in Spanish. And like, I couldn't understand a little bit of Spanish. And I was like, oh shit, I think he's talking about me. And I was like, oh God, I hope this is good, blah, blah, blah. So as soon as we got back to the house, the villa, we're roommates. And so I grabbed him and I was like, so like, how'd it go, dude? Like, well, I feel like you were talking about me. He's like, yeah, we were talking about you a lot. And I was like, well, what do you think? And he's like, there was one thing he said. He was like, she said, and he's like, I don't know how to exactly like to translate it, but he was like, she basically said that you feel like home.
Aww.
And I was like, and it like melted me. And I was like, oh my God, I was like, that's the cutest thing ever. I love that. So I was like, okay, I'm going to do it. And so I was in my room with my two roommates, Pocho and Johnny. And I was like, I think it'd be really fun. Like, I think Pocho, if you could teach me how to say it in Spanish. And I asked her, and then within minutes, we had production in my room going, yep, we're going to do this. Like, they loved it. You know, they're like, let's do like a play on Bachelor, and like, let's have Johnny act like Chris Harrison, like all this stuff.
Oh my God, it's so funny.
Yeah. So, and that's when I was sitting in my ATM kind of like talking or thinking of what I was going to say. I was practicing my Spanish. And then, she brought it down. And I wanted it to be like a lighthearted thing. Like, I didn't want it to be like this super serious, because we both more like, I proposed and she's, proposed. So like, I didn't want it to be like this super serious thing. So we had shot glasses on the table with tequila, you know what I mean? It was like, here's your last shot, not your last rose. So I tried to make it as fun as possible, but I did see the panic in her kind of eyes. You saw the PTSD. Yeah, I literally, and I remember, I didn't even, at the time, I didn't think about how it could be triggering until I saw her face. And it was like, all at once, my mind started being like, oh shit, she this is probably triggering as fuck for her. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to skip. I think I skipped some of my speech. I sped it up and I just said it in Spanish. And then it was like the relief on her face, and then like everybody was popping bottles and spraying us with champagne, and like, so it was just a really cool moment. So and then I had a friend, when I posted on my social, I had a friend of mine here in Denver, and she's not really into like reality TV or anything, and she DM'd me, she's like, what's the coolest thing about this is like, you'll have this forever. Like, you'll have such a cool, well-documented moment of like that. And she's like, people don't have that. Like, people don't get that. And so she's just like, it's so cool that you two have that. And it was like, I was like, you're right. Like, I feel, we're very lucky, and sometimes we take what we do for granted. Yeah. Like, it's really cool to have that moment so well documented and stuff. So.
The Spanish really meant a lot to me.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Do that for the other question.
Deal. Oh man, but yeah, that was fun to do too, because I knew it was very important to her, and like her culture and everything. And it was tell you what, it's not something the Bachelor would ever do. So I was like, you know what, like, this is so cool. It's not that. This is All-Star Shore. I can do something like this. And also, Shore is just so bicultural already. Like, it was just a really cool moment.
Yeah. It looked like it. It looked super fun. Like I said, I didn't watch the show, but I was catching some recaps. Even from you guys' Instagram too, when y'all were doing some recaps around it. But yeah, that's so exciting. And I mean, I know this, but my listeners, when did you guys say I love you, like actually to each other?
So it's funny you say that, because I had wanted to, for decent, like, we were in Europe for her birthday, and like, it was gonna happen in Europe. I was so fucking excited. Yeah, and I was just trying to find the right time. You know what I mean? And it just, I don't know why, but it just never felt right. And it's, that's like dumb to like have to wait.
Because you wanted to see how it was when we were public.
But I said it before we were public.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah, I still said it before.
Oh, I was wrong.
That was like something that was something that I was scared about, was like having I've never had a public relationship. She has, I never have. So that was something that was scary. But no, it was just like, I don't know why. And so one day we were just laying in bed.
We don't really like fight. We don't bicker. I mean, we do like have the bickering, but very, very rarely does it last longer than like an hour. And we were bickering all day that day. We were bickering all day that day. And we found it so weird. I was like, fuck, we're never like this. Like, what's going on? And we went out to dinner, remember, to that Italian dinner. And like, we started drinking, and we were still, I think we were bickering even when we were making the bed to go to sleep. It was like a really weird, it was like a really weird day for us. And I don't know what it was. I think it's because like, so, and I'm gonna like therapize you right now. Maybe because like subconsciously you're like, oh, like we had a pretty trying day, but at the end of the day, like, we're still laughing and having a good time in bed. Then I feel like you felt safe.
Possibly, yeah. I mean, I know that there was just this overwhelming feeling in that moment, and I was finally just like, fuck it. Yeah. And we were just laying in bed, and I just like, she was like in my arms. I was just like, I love you. And then I think what did you do? You like, no, you know what you did?
So he gave me this really big hug and like just like breathed me in. And then he pulls me back and with like this massive smile, like smile on his face, he goes, I love you.
Well, I think it was like a relief for me because
Yeah.
like I'd want to say in fact I was like, fuck it, this is not gonna be this perfect moment.
Right.
And like the bed, like my room is like kind of a safe space for us, you know,
Yeah.
like we travel and everything, and then we get home and like we were able to relax and just be ourselves. Like that was kind of a safe place for us for sure.
And then
so,
I just busted out laughing.
yeah, you did.
Like I was just laughing for like a good like minute, and then I started crying laughing.
Oh.
And then you started crying.
Yeah. And then it was funny, just not long ago, a couple weeks ago, she was like, I didn't know that she had said that she loved me on the show. I did not know that.
Yeah.
So she was like, I was so worried that you weren't going to say it before and then you'd see it on the show.
Yeah.
And I was like, yeah. I didn't know she had said it. Yeah. So.
Aw.
The first time you see it is gonna be on TV. What the fuck?
Right? Oh my God. That's
Yeah,
so
but-
sweet. I love that.
Yeah, it was really cute.
Mhm.
That's super cute. Okay, so I really want to touch on two other things. One, obviously you've talked on the like just your blind optimism and stuff, but I know like just using the word like manifestation, like that's just like stuff that you do, like, and you're very involved. You have now your own like clothing line that Universe has your back, and you know, Sunshine Club and everything. But you know, how has that played in you guys' relationship? And I know obviously we had our own 3 little campfire moment of manifesting a month ago. You know, as far as like introducing that type of stuff, like obviously Blake is open to it, so that's cool. You know,
So like we're both like, we're not religious people.
Yeah.
So I think that not having like that conflict of like what is the universe, like it's just, I'm more of like the universe is God, and God is the universe, and the way that I interpret God and the universe is just like nature and you know, these gut feelings that I get. And like when I speak out into the universe, it's like a form of prayer, right? Like I just don't go to a church and kneel down and, you know, say the 10 like
right?
Our Father and things like that. So to me, it's just a way of like of speaking out, of praying.
Right.
And he has been, and I realized that I was this way when I was like in my early 20s. I moved out. My family's super Catholic, right? And I stopped going to church, and I didn't feel like something was missing. But then I started feeling the universe or God whenever I was out in nature.
Mhm.
And whenever I would speak out, like in my fucking fury, you know, like these fits of like anxiety, then I would feel better. And then I would come home and suddenly things just started to manifest that of what I was speaking out, you know, like things would start clearing out of my life, and I would start making space for the things that I really wanted to bring into my life. And so I started making that connection, like just subconsciously. And then I realized that there's like this whole community that does do this as like an actual practice to you know, to follow throughout their life. And so I dabble in it, you know, with like crystals and like I follow the moon, and like I really do believe that like the Mayans had something going for them when they said that, you know, that they follow the cycles of the moon and things like that. So there is some truth to it. So in his, I think, mind, that's where it makes some sense.
I think for me, I had been manifesting for a very long time without knowing I was manifesting. Like, I think, like, even growing up, like, sports was a big part of my life growing up and in college and everything. I played football in college. And I think just, it's basically like preparing for something in the future that hasn't happened yet. And I would do that in sports, you know, obviously, you know, you get ready for a game or whatever for one single tiny opportunity to do something, and you practice your whole life for it. And I think that's kind of what manifesting is. I think you just speak into what you want. And then when there's this tiny opportunity, you're ready for it.
Mm-hmm.
And I think I don't think I heard the word manifest until maybe like 5 or 6 years ago. But I had, you know, turns out I had kind of been doing that most of my life. So yeah, I mean, for me, I just thought I was getting lucky, and that very well could be the case. I think maybe, you know, there's a lot of opportunities in my life where I've gotten lucky, but I think also it's also preparing for tiny, minute opportunities and then taking advantage of them when you have it. And I think manifesting is that. I think manifesting is speaking in the world what you want, and then when you get an opportunity for it, you're ready and you take advantage of it. And so that's kind of how I picture manifesting.
But it's also like being intentional about it.
Yeah.
So now that you know that like, oh, this has worked for me without knowing that I was doing this in the past. Now that I know how I can tap into that, and be intentional about it and really like focus on it, because your mind is so powerful. And like, have you noticed that whenever you speak, negative things, and more negative things happen, and then when you speak things, positive things follow. So it's really just being intentional of the thoughts and the feelings that you're putting out into the world so that you can receive those back. And that is where, like, maybe because I have been a blind optimist literally my entire life, is where I've always felt like the universe has my back, because I have my own back, because I feel like everything's going to be okay. So that's also what I receive. That's that wavelength that I stay at. And so it's like, cool, I can do that. How can I amplify it? So like, manifest, a healthy, thriving life, like manifest a family, manifest a happy relationship, manifest, my dog, a clothing line, whatever it is. And then not just like sitting there and being like, all right, I'm going to wait for this to happen. But it's because like you're so intentional about it that it becomes part of your subconscious, that you just move towards that. That's what you strive to do. And so when you are presented with that opportunity, then you're ready for it, because you have, like what you said, been preparing.
And very intentional with everything. And it's simply, I think, in my opinion, like one line, and it's just like what you put out is what you get. And that's in relationships, that's in the universe, that's in everything in your job, whatever it is, whatever you put out, you get back. If you treat people with respect, you're getting respect back. Like that's just something like a mantra I live by, for sure. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah, he's been having fun with writing the notes and during the full moon.
I wasn't into the witchcraft part of everything. But I'm open to anything. I am very much an yes man, and open to just damn near anything. So that's I've always been that person.
We're not like sacrificing chickens.
Exactly. We draw the line there.
We just
unless it works, then
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, it's super cool. I mean, we're always manifesting something, as you said. It's like it'll either be positive or negative, though, depending on where our thoughts are and what actions we're taking towards either of them. But yeah, you had I've been listening like YouTube to Abraham Hicks for quite some time now, but I'm like halfway through her book, The Ask and It Is Given. I know you recently, I think, had read that or have read that in the past. But it just like reconfirming and just kind of like reintroducing some of the concepts to me. And I'm like, yes, it's just so powerful.
Ask and It Is Given is like, you have to read it once you're already open, in my opinion.
Yeah, I agree.
Because it is and these are things that I felt innately, but I was actually reading that book when I was in quarantine for Ulster Shore. So I was all by myself, topless on this beach in Africa, just reading Abraham Hicks. Yeah. And one thing that stuck to me was, they are happy when we realize that we have the power to create our own life. I remember that was like this one like section of that book. And that has stuck with me ever since then. And it's like, they are happy once we know that we can create our own life. So what does that mean? You have the power to create your own life.
Right.
So I always fall back to that when I feel like stuck, because whatever's out there, like whatever higher entity, like they just want you to reach that point of enlightenment that you have the power to control that like piece of your life, whether you feel like you don't have control or not. You really do. Right. Which is like really hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Hard to wrap your head around.
Yeah.
Especially when Abraham talks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Very complex.
You have to be very open to it.
Yeah. No, you definitely do. I love that. Okay, so so I mean, just like what you guys are doing now, obviously, like you are a awesome DJ, and that is something to like talk about, and just your successes in that. And then Giannina, also like I have to share a little baby story. So you met my sister like a long time ago, and I want to say like probably within 6 months after Love is Blind aired, my sister said something. She was like, I remember having a conversation with Giannina, and she said, I really want to be an influencer, or something around those lines. And my sister was like, and she's doing it. It was just, I don't know. I don't even know why your name came up, but like she just said that, and I was like, she is doing it. It was really it was cool. Anyways, but yeah, what are you guys doing? You know, career-wise, what are y'all working on? All the things.
So like you said, I've been DJing now, like professional, like actually career-wise DJing professionally, for about over 3 years now, coming up on 4. So it's awesome. It's amazing. It's not something I never thought I would be able to do as far as like make a living off of it. You know, obviously I don't think many people think that. And there was a lot of fear wrapped up in that. Because obviously, you know, it's scary to start a new career. It's scary to start at zero. But I decided to swallow my fear, swallow my pride. And, you know, I knew that it would be more or less like, obviously the platforms all 3 of us have now got is amazing. And there's some incredible opportunities from it. And we've all been able to kind of, you know, make a living off of it. But I know there was DJing is hard because I knew some people would be like, what a fucking joke. You know, people would be like, oh, now he thinks he's a damn DJ, you know? So I knew going into that it wasn't going to be the easiest transition. But like I said, I should have swallowed my pride, I had to swallow my fear and just kind of like grind, if you will. And I put in a lot of work now. It's been over 3 years and I played some amazing venues, some amazing festivals. I've opened for, you know, I played the same stage as Snoop Dogg. I've opened for some incredible people. So it's been an awesome journey. And it's funny because it's never something like I said, never something I thought I'd do professionally, but as soon as I told my friends, my family, everybody that I was, you know, going to really give this a shot, nobody was shocked. Nobody was surprised. I was talking with a college friend of mine at a wedding recently, and there used to be a basement in my house that we would all party at, and it was my room, but it was the whole basement. They called it the Blakesman. And I used to be, weirdly enough, we were talking about it for some reason, and she kind of looks at me, she's like, I never thought about this, but like, you were the DJ for those parties. I was like, yeah, like I've always been the guy. Even on the show, The Bachelorette, we were listening to my playlist whenever we had a chance to like unwind and listen to music. So it's just always been something I've been super interested in. I was the guy finding music on YouTube and finding all the new stuff. So it's always something I've been super interested in now, to be able to make a living off of it and do something you love and make a good living is just, I couldn't ask for more. So I absolutely love it. Are you going to be in December? Are you coming to what's his name's
hit
the Noel ball? Yeah. Good. Because I'm gonna be. I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but I'm gonna be DJing that. I don't know if he's announced that yet or not, but it's gonna be really, really fun. So yeah, it's really cool.
So exciting. I know. I've been wanting to try and like catch one of your shows. I swear it's like, because y'all were just in Nashville.
Yeah.
I was in New York. Like, I feel like every time you're like on the East Coast, but like closer to me, I'm like traveling somewhere. Something so I've never.
Yeah, one of these days you'll catch me, and then you'll see also kind of like a lot of people are like, oh, like he's DJ, but then I think people see how passionate I am about it, how much fun I have, and they're like, oh shit, like it's pretty cool. So yeah.
Like one thing about like, well, that I noticed was just like, I don't know if shameless is the right word, but like you have no fear, like very, like you just put your whole heart and soul into it. Yeah. So that's the coolest part about watching you do it. Because it's just like, you're not afraid. You're just not afraid. And like, I don't know how else to word that, but I think that is like the part that you can't teach, really. Like his showmanship is just fan-fucking-tastic, and he really makes the shows, like for sure. Like I'll watch a DJ and just be like, bro, like, you know, you can give a shit about your crowd, and Blake really does care about like whether you're having a good time or not. And it's a hard life. Like I've been touring with him for like the past couple of months, and I'm just like, all right, cool. Like I can bow out whenever and like not, you know, go to a weekend, but he has to show up like every single weekend. So it's just like, good for you, baby.
It's a lot of energy.
Yeah.
The crowd kind of, even if you're dead, you feel like, oh my God, it's gonna be rough. As soon as you feel the energy from the crowd and the crowd feels the energy from you, it's all, you black out almost, like you just kind of like do your thing. And so yeah, it is hard. And I'm lucky enough that it's weird. She like was always a festival rat, if you will. Like she was always been into DJs and that kind of music. So the fact that we were able to find each other, and she has a job that allows her to travel and be with me on the road when she's able to and when she wants to, it's pretty special.
Yeah, like I would literally sneak into festivals by myself and like sneak into like these underground DJ sets by myself. And I even bought this little DJ controller that I have underneath my bed because I wanted to be a DJ. And then now, like I meet Blake, and now we're just going to all these festivals, and like I genuinely have a great time. And like it's something that, fuck, I wish I was a DJ.
Oh, she gets up there on stage and she steals the show.
Yeah. His manager's like, go on stage, go on stage. I'm like, okay.
So,
Yeah.
you can guest DJ, like you can just go up there.
I've tried to kind of show her some things.
We have very different styles.
Yeah, musically.
So that's why it's
very true.
no duos.
Maybe I'll get her voice on one of my tracks.
Yeah, I've done that for
Yeah,
a couple friends.
yeah, we'll do
I have a sexy voice, is what I was told in the pods.
that.
Yes. That's so cute.
What am I up to? I've been doing my merch collections all year and just seeing, what it is that people really enjoy to consume from me, but also to have like a message and a mission behind it.
Right.
I'm working on a couple of fun things to not only like develop and like market, but to just document my life even further. So we'll see if that pans out. But I, like, to your point, I mean, your sister, we had that conversation and she like read my aura and she was like, aura. And she's not the first one to say it. So just like being able to kind of like document my life, make a living out of it, but also make it feel like there's that I'm doing some good with it has been my biggest thing for the past couple of years. And like studying my audience and wanting to create something and put something out there that creates, a difference. So I'm currently working on that. If you want to buy some good karmic merch, the universe has your back. It's on my Instagram right now, but hopefully to develop that even further. And one of my biggest passions is to help people back in Venezuela that like have not been able to buy a single garment for the past 10 years, 15 years, because there's no supply and there's no money. So to me, something that really helps me, like when I'm going through my low times, is like put on a cute outfit, throw on some lipstick, and like suddenly I can tackle the world, right? And if I'm able to give some sort of like oomph and some sort of, like happiness to people back in Venezuela. I've been giving my clothes whenever I switch out my closet to my family back in Venezuela for like 10 years, and I've clothed like 15 families, and I get all these pictures and videos of them literally crying with happiness. Like nothing fulfills me more. So it's just like, how can I like put these two things together so that, I'm being an influencer, which is something that I always wanted. Didn't know how I was going to do it. Honestly, it wasn't even my goal when I did Love is Blind. I didn't think anybody was going to see Love is Blind. That's why I was honest in the beginning.
Right. Real vulnerable.
I was like, no one's going to see this shit. Let's just talk about everything. And then somehow it happened. So it's like, all right, let's do some good with it. So whether that's through clothes or just like, doing more of like documenting my life so that people don't feel like they're alone in a journey that they didn't know how to get out of a situation of how being unhappy, and then suddenly you can, like that in itself, just showing people that, you can inspire yourself while inspiring others. It's like really what keeps me going. So keep on a lookout. Hopefully by this time next year I have some really exciting news, but we're always a work in progress.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You already are. I mean, the both of you are doing really good things, and your passion shines through with everything that you're already doing. So
Thank you.
Reaffirm that to you.
Kelly.
You're doing a good job.
Chase life with Kelly, baby.
Right. Okay, so yeah, I mean, you guys, thank you so much. I could talk.
No, thanks for having us.
forever.
I know we've been wanting to do this for a while, so
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'm like, can I come back over for like barbecue?
whenever you want, whenever you want. Wait till you see. We just got a company come in to maybe redo my backyard, put a pool and a new deck, and like it's
Fun.
gonna be pretty awesome. So hopefully this time next year we'll have all.
Yeah, come over. I'll host you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Get more juice, strawberry.
Yeah.
Whatever.
Potion juice. Love it.
I love it. No, but thank you guys so much for being here, and I'm excited to continue to, watch your journey unfold and all your successes. So thank
You
you.
too. Appreciate it. We'll see you soon. Hopefully, we'll see you in December.
Oh,
for sure.
see you in December for
Yeah,
sure.
no, I will. So we'll see you then.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, Kelly. Talk to you later. Bye.
If you loved this episode, please download, share, rate, and review. If you are ready to step into that next level version of you and grow your business and bank account, it's time to unleash your goddess magic and chase life with Kelly. You can start this epic expansion journey by diving into the Goddess Magic course bundle found at chaselifetogether.com. Please connect with me on Instagram at Chase Life with Kelly. Join the Chase Life with Kelly Facebook community and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, create the life you crave, babe, and chase life with Kelly.